Made cookies.
They're really good too.
So good.
They're not letting me take that home.
I'm gonna take some home.
Do, please. I always send the rest of my oldest who's in high school, so if ever we're trying to get rid of anything.
You're good
it's
to
in
go,
there
Lois.
With her, and it's just.
Yeah. Are we on? Hello, happy 2024. And this is the Salem Public Library Advisory Board. This is our January 10th meeting. Welcome. And we will call to order approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Approve the minutes. I need a second. All in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Did we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. So now we're on to the team advisory board. It's all yours. People.
This wasn't the third time doing it. I guess so.
It's all right.
You
Ready?
got it.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
Record it.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm there. And when again, yeah, join the club. It's been a long. I am a senior at Robert Sugar and yeah. In November, I learned about changes happening with Salem Public Library, including a transition to our new team service suite. That's a lot. Team services on senior librarian, Christy and the watch, who were beginning custodial role at Salem. In December, I've learned about the operational hours change for union and most Salem libraries, working with two services staff to identify and set the meeting time based on those changes. And first meeting this is scheduled for tomorrow, as they did right.
My dog's Marvin. I'm Ricky Kim. I'm a sophomore at West Salem High School. So over the break, we had our kind of little work parties, cleaning out the windows and starting with new artwork. They opened some, new setting there. Not sure what ideas were, but yeah, something. I'm summer reading, so I did Wild Blue Summer Reading Box for the team program participants and write ideas for between events and activities. Funny on the web, it would be great. I agree. For tomorrow's Academy, Coach Lauren Gilbert has room for a guest speaker from YMC to assign. Performance a year from a new program director to Y at Future Academy. To be interesting here. And that's about it for a while.
Hi, I'm Helena Miller. I am new to tab as of this fall, and I'm here to learn about how all of this normally goes.
Great. Well, thank you. Any questions for the please? I have one. So how, did you have one? No. Oh, okay. So how has the change in hours affected you as teens or any other teens that we have talked to?
Oh, I did.
You liked it?
I don't like
I
it.
did first. Yeah. Why?
And it's a lot harder for me and a lot of my friends to actually come to right here. Because like for me, I go to high school. So it takes me like half an hour to get home and I don't. So if I were to go home and then like we were to do something like that, right? Would be lucky to have an hour, 45 minutes to do it. And I even have a lot of friends who they don't get home until 5 sometimes. And I know that was a struggle with it. Figuring out the time to actually planning things.
Yeah.
Because we're meeting at 4:30 now, which a lot of people are like halfway through the meeting because they got they get home.
Yeah.
a gym house, it makes it a lot less accessible for, and any teens or even adults, teens, or adults, if they, get out their work, or, get out of school, if they can drive, they can probably do it an hour and a half, maybe they'll have to do something. But then if they have to take the bus, have to walk, have to do anything other than drive, they probably can't make it before it closes, like, fairly, especially for adults who need to use the library, want to use the library. They probably don't get off work before I understand what the schedule reports, but most people probably aren't getting off work at the same time, so it makes it accessible for people who work later shifts, like people who work just longer shifts. Well, less accessible for adults in general, as well as students or anybody who doesn't have, cars or any family transportation. It's, just makes it difficult all around.
Would you be willing to talk to the city council about that?
We actually do, of the people who, raise the concern, but, with each other, but we had a plan to talk to them, and then this is what happens if things got crazy, so
Yeah.
we are finally putting that plan.
Yeah, and if you stay to where I'm on the agenda, leave down, there's a suggestion that I would make at that time, if you would stay with you, don't think you will, and I make it. There's another opportunity for, I think, important input, and that is a town hall, maybe held here, in the Louds Auditorium, on Wednesday, January 25th, I think I have the date right, Deb Patterson, who is a state senator, and Tom Anderson, who is a state representative. Actually, you all may know that February 5th is the beginning of the Oregon legislature's short session. They have a long session on odd number years and a short session for 60 days. It's time limited on even number of years. And it begins February 5th. So this town hall is going to be held before the opening of the short session. And I think it would be very powerful for them to hear about the impact of the wonderful things you all have done, and how the funding shortage and staff shortages, which have necessitated an hours cut back, have impacted you. I remember at our last meeting, you said a lot of people don't cancel 5 o'clock. I remember when we asked you that. And when I saw that you were changing hours, that was the first thing I thought of was your comment. So I would really, it'll be from, I believe, 5 until 6. Because 6 is when it closes, I believe, during the week. So they had hoped to have it to 7:30. But even they're being cut out of their, so like, they know, okay, but I think hearing it from you all would be really powerful. So I hope that you will, January 25th, it's a Thursday in the auditorium.
Hearing from you is always a good, not only because you're important, but it's always good PR for them, like, oh, listening to our youth, so. And you're our future, so. All right, chair's report. This is farther on the agenda, but I just wanted to let everybody know that this is my last meeting. I am resigning, from the, lab. And, part of it is, I just feel like I can do more, for the library without being on this board, because there's so many rules and regulations and what we, can't do, that I'm resigning, and David will take over. I've been on this board for 7.5 years, and I think that's enough time, but we've done a lot of good stuff. And I always love hearing from the teams. I love, all these people. The one thing I would say is I really, not the librarians, but the city staff, I think it would be very, very helpful to hear more about what lab can do instead of what they can't do. Like, you can't do emails, you can't do this, public meeting, all the stuff. Help us, help lab know what they can do, not all the rules about what we can't do. So, say that. All right, the librarian's report.
So, actually, I've been put in the packet, but you can see that our numbers for December slightly dropped a little bit just because of the holidays. Some notable things in the step back news, Karen Quincy, who's been working as our circuit supervisor for 22 years. She retired. Her last day was last week on Thursday, and she was there was a little party for her, a lot of the staff came to step back and previous people that she worked with as well. So it was like a really good send off for her. And you heard that Christine not bringing to my librarian here, and some internal transfers to kind of help out overall operations. Speaking of operations, we have heard a lot of community input regarding our operational hours. And just, you know, to acknowledge that we do read every comment, we do read every email, and we are very sorry about the adjusted hours. And we hope that in the future, we could possibly extend those back to where they were. But that we do read everything, we do try to comment on and any question asked and just hear people out, because I know it's very frustrating. And I know it does create a barrier for access. And we do recognize that. We are very sorry for that, but this is currently what we can operate in with our current capacity, and based on the numbers, those are the hours that are most needed. Library, so I do want to acknowledge that. If you haven't seen, the state librarian did put out a press release to kind of talk about everything for the current climate of libraries, and I feel like it was really greatly worded regarding what we're facing right now, and that's just a little tip of the iceberg. So it was great to have that little shout out. But you know, staff are still feeling a little bit of the burnout now, because now they have to condense everything from the Sunday and the evening to now the 5 days a week with the 40 hours. So we are currently seeing that, especially our CERC team is starting to keep up with the added workload. So we're trying to navigate that now. So yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding anything else that you think happened in the report, there's a lot of great things that are happening, especially with our strategic plan updates. We're super excited to be able to provide more accessibility regarding the cards and the phones, and then with their objective hours. I saw that David, and then I'll finish.
Just a couple of things. First of all, with the new hours, are you anticipating that there's going to be a reduction in collection and an increase on online activities, or what is there a national standard that works, or do you see there as an overall?
Library will be closed till June 15th. Please start checking our items out.
There's a lot of slides.
If you need a library card, please go to the nearest service. Please visit again during our break at all times.
And the downside of being closed earlier.
Estaría tomando de los estados. Por favor, diríjase al servicio para las estaciones de autobuses. Si necesita abrir una cuenta nueva, por favor, diríjase al servicio. Visítenos nuevamente durante nuestro horario regular.
There you go. We did not reduce the budget for collection. It was just, right now we're ordering as is. We are going to be increasing some digital collections, and I know that the foundation has offered their support to purchase a new resource for online access. And right now we're looking at what that could be. So if it could be a new database, or maybe just increasing more. I know a public library often gets, and every month we run out of credits and people get really frustrated. So maybe adding more funds to the cloud library.
And I had just, I have a motion I'd like to introduce, but Yeah, you want to do that now?
Well, I had a couple questions.
Sure, I
Does
know other
anybody-
questions to second about. too.
Did anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I looked at your, I tried to read it, but the numbers were really tiny for the, city council when you talked to them about, you know, the numbers and the days and what the, and also the sick leave increase, that was really powerful, how much there's been an exponential increase in taking sick time, which is definitely could be stressful. But, I guess one of the things that really hit me, and I don't know if the emails that are coming your way speak to this, but the Sunday closure. And if the decision was made based on numbers that come on Sunday, but yet Sunday is only open from 1 until 5, was that a legitimate point on which to make that decision? Or like, that's what worried me, that maybe because Sunday's utilization may have looked less than other days, that it may have driven a decision that actually is based on a shorter time frame. So,
Overall, the numbers, even with the shortened hours, I mean, the numbers speak volumes regarding the increased usage versus the Sunday usage. Even on Saturdays with the same time, it was still more than that Sunday. That's not to say that Sunday is not a valuable day. That is actually one day that if I ever get to extend hours, Sunday would be the first day that I would head back. Because that's been the one prevalent comment that please bring back Sunday. This was the one day a week, and I do feel for those patrons, and that would be the one day I would be back.
and the kids in the work.
I just had a question, Bridget, none of what I say has anything to do with the library staff. I want to know how the city A decided to stop hiring people at the library. Why did they do that? Why did they choose the library? Did they look at, and then my other question is, did other departments stop hiring? Because that's what they're saying is the reason for the closure. And I get that, you know, you're overwhelmed. But why did they pick the library to stop hiring physicians? And how does that line up with any kind of, did you have any kind of community input from anybody about what the community's priorities were?
So it was a self-imposed, like brief. So I saw that there was, I couldn't guarantee anybody who I placed in those roles a job in the next fiscal year. Because, I mean, inevitably, we are going to have reduction. So if I would have filled those positions, they would be the first to go. So I couldn't professionally and as a human be able to ask somebody to come in and be like, by the way, you might be laid off and extended. So that's why I did the self-imposed freeze. It was either that or potentially letting go staff who's already in here, because depending on operational needs, I would have to see who I would need to let go, but I would have to let go of people. That's why we did the self-imposed freeze.
And other departments are doing this also. They're in the city.
Yes, there have been that they're intentionally not filling like the standard request, Parks and Rec. Because the community services department are going to see overall the most cuts because we're not a bundle resource.
But of course we are.
We are, but police, fire, homeless resources come first in the grand scheme of things. That's from what I've been hearing back from the council and from people, so so as much as I've been getting all the support for libraries and to open our hours, I've also been hearing like, good, get them off, just cut them already, and so I do get the opposite as well. Yeah.
Just so you're aware, I think tonight was even the first meeting, there's a budget committee meeting, I think it's tonight. Which I believe deals with adjustments to the current budget. Then I think we start in February or March, the city is gonna go through its budget process for the 24-25, which a lot of it is gonna be dealing with addressing priorities in relationship to the budget shortfall. So to the extent your questions are about how is the budget limitations affecting all of the department and where is the city going to be making adjustments to its current budget and how that's going to roll over into the next biennium? I think they're available on the YouTube channel and all of those other things. And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact dates, but that would also be a great opportunity to see that, get that information as well.
Got that, David?
Yeah, on the city council page, which I can share after the meeting, you can see all the dates that the task force is gonna gather, as well as all the city council meetings and a work sessions for public comments is welcomed, and I can share that from the link tomorrow.
Has the revenue task force been assigned?
So I think so. They have, and I believe they're gonna meet at the last week of this month. Yeah, and they're all gonna be on by end of the day.
Just as a follow-up to Lois's question, so you were given a vacancy factor in the budget in terms of the percentage of positions that you held back. Are those positions have not been filled in the past, or those are positions you could have filled but chose for obvious reasons chosen to fill?
Those positions naturally people have left. So people who've gotten other jobs, people who were retired, people who had to leave because of personal reasons. But those were just natural vacancies that happened, and I just intentionally did not fill them because I didn't with the sections.
So I know, I was at the meeting and, Counselor Nordike was, asking questions because, even the city council didn't know what was going on. And we, as the library advisory board, didn't know what was going on. And so it seems like maybe that's something that we could have been, appraised of. Anyway. Okay, anything else?
I just wanted then to add a motion if I could for discussion and just a motion to recognize the difficult challenges that library staff are going through and them for their dedication to support the Salem Library. Second. And just for discussion, I just think this has been, politics aside, we may have questions about why the city did what they did, the direction, and that's for another conversation, but I know this has been extremely challenging for library staff, and so I want to really to Bridget and the team. Thank you for your dedication. I know this is hard. It's not going to be easy, but greatly appreciate your support.
So are we, so is this the motion?
There's motion and a second.
Okay, so all in favor of this wonderful motion for our library and for librarians and our staff? Say aye. Any opposed? So the Friends doesn't have anyone here, and how about the foundation report from Sarah?
So we met a while ago because it was before the holidays, but we now have two new members on the foundation board. Deborah Grant, who's a retired high school and middle school librarian, and Courtney Gould, who's a young adult creative writer. And so they joined us for the first time in December. The Salem Reads giveaway had just happened and was very successful. We've already heard about that from the library as well. Kate reported a little bit about the library boards coming together, and I know you're going to talk more about that today, Lois. And we've spent time talking about how as the foundation, we can support the library in this time. And we're encouraged to apply or encouraged to ask people involved with the library to apply for the revenue task force. And also talking about this legislation that Patterson is working on, how we can support the library, both short-term and long-term in terms of providing more stability in terms of the funding.
Questions for Sarah? Well, I want to thank that foundation for supporting the sprinkle springs. I mean, flat out, thank them. And then for the staff, we recommended the carts for carrying big loads of books, which I think is great. Can you take the carts out to your car then, or how does that, and then bring them back?
We're still working on the procedure of how that would look like, because we do anticipate that people get lost or stolen. So we're gonna see, we're still working on a facility.
All right. Okay, discussion items, I already resigned, well, I will send you an official, like, resignation letter. Oh, lab meeting times, so we gotta talk about when we're gonna meet now that we have these restricted hours.
Bridget, would it be, less intrusive on staff if we looked at going back to a more remote schedule?
It's up, well, if we do that and at the same time, Clarissa and I would still be the
So it's still very
Yeah.
okay.
So when will you have meetings with the team? We want to have meetings after the hours. They won't have CMO. So are we the only group that needs?
You know, friends are gonna adjust their hours, foundations will have to adjust their hours. The only people that have, and everybody would, of course, I mean, the only people that kind of have more wiggle room are like that City of Salem sponsored event that's going on over there. There's a City of Salem staff member, not part of the library, who's using it after hours. They're gonna make sure to secure the building to ensure that everybody walks out. So they can use our lunch after hours, but it's not library staff who are then there for assignment.
Considering how many staff members were impacted by.
Just two. Or maybe three, because Sonia, yeah. Four, I'm sorry, Mark, you're part of it.
So I just, maybe just a motion that we, effective our February meeting, go to a schedule of 5 to 6. That would work.
That would work.
Is that enough?
Get off work, or what time do you get off work?
Sporadic. I don't really, I don't have that. I mean, I technically get off at 5, but I get off early, right?
Matt, there's
20% off.
I think this is understood, but I just want to make sure it's understood, the conversation. There's no requirement that the board meet after regular business hours or anything like that. It can be held whenever it works. We have other advisory boards that meet, like I think the Public Art Commission meets from 2:30 to 4 or whatever. So please, whatever works for everyone, and if it's more convenient and you prefer to do it obviously we do it hybrid, whatever. I just want to make sure that you all know that it can be whenever you feel is most convenient for you and conducive for the work that you want to achieve. It doesn't have to be after traditional business hours. So please know that.
Well, I'm buying a house right now, so midnight to 2
Did I say conducive to the purpose of the board?
Well, we're getting 2 new members, so well, they were appointed, right, on Monday?
They were, I have.
Who
the
are
names
they?
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Dana Castano and Kelly Brax.
so I'm wondering if if we want to wait until those people come on and see what their schedules are like. I mean, I don't know if, like a Saturday or Sunday, that's kind of, that's kind of precious time, but it's not gonna affect me, so we'll talk about it.
But we are limited to the library hours so that we can have library staff here. Yeah.
And we have to do the Zoom public meeting stuff, correct?
But it does sound like, at least in the short term, going to virtual would make it I think, probably more conducive to people being able to come early.
Its default is by administrative policies, it needs to be a hybrid. If at least an opportunity for people to appear in person. So library staff, I think, will at a minimum be in a physical space. That doesn't require any of the board members to necessarily be there, but it's so that people who don't have access to the technology to appear virtually can be here, or vice versa for people who can't be. So it's to promote that. So it will be a high, unless it is approved by the department law, it needs to be in a hybrid format.
But it could just be staff who are present physically.
There's nothing that technically meets it, absolutely.
Well, given that clarification, happy to modify my motion and make at least the February meeting hybrid from 5 to 6. Does that work for you? Yeah.
We can still be there.
You can still, yeah, you can still be there.
Okay, so the February meeting will be from 5 to 6. Is there any leeway, like, I mean, we used to have sometimes longer meetings. I mean, like, if we ever really discussed anything, could they go over 6?
It would,
Or like today?
yeah, so, I had to adjust hours for Clarissa, because she was
Yeah.
For myself, so, if we go over hours, then we would run into her working overtime, which is not.
Yeah. So everybody talk fast. So was that a motion or?
Motion and think of my second.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody, okay, all in favor of having the February meeting start at 5 and at 6, probably. 5 by saying, what?
Interview remote.
Oh, hybrid. Remote?
Hybrid.
Hybrid, okay, hybrid. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay,
Who did the second? There was no, okay.
so, the December 6th meeting, summary of that. So, I was there, Sonia was there, Matthew was there. Matthew, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. So we had a meeting with Sonia Willis and about with friends and foundation, talked about how we work together as boards to help, support the library, what each group's goals could be. A little bit of frustrating. But that's when we found out about changing library times, resource utilization. We did speak a little bit about creating library district, and how we would go about that, and whether or not we could be involved in doing that, and then issues that we could help each other with. How close my hands were tied in some instances. For your resignation, I'm sorry. So yeah, that was the gist of the discussion.
Which I don't think.
Well, I don't want to speak for the other boards, but it was a little bit.
No, oh, yeah, but I actually don't think there would be restrictions on what how we could advocate for the library. But I don't even want to get into it because it's frustrating. Yeah, I was kind of frustrated at the meeting. First of all, I thought there was quite a bit of work that went into putting it together and, how are we gonna do it? All these things. Basically, the only other board member that showed up was somebody from the foundation, and Kate came, but she's the executive director, so there was not really, there was one other board member there. That was, none of the teams showed up, friends didn't show up. I was disappointed, I was very disappointed. I didn't feel like there was much talk about collaboration. It's pretty much everybody was gonna, this was me, my take on it. Pretty much everybody just, of the one board that was there was like, we're gonna kind of stay in our lane. And so that was how it felt to me. And, there was not a collaboration that I saw happening. So, yeah. Any questions? Thank you for doing it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so Valerie, download the books.
Yes, I don't know if everybody's aware of what Battle Books. I am super passionate about it. I love it so much. I had the opportunity to sit in on one of their board meetings, here, last month. OBOP State is in April, and I'm now, there's some long title. Basically, I'm getting the moderators and sports entertainers. So very great. Within that meeting, they were talking about funding. So Oregon Battle of the Books is grade school, middle school, and high school. Committee picks 16 books for grade school and separate 16 for middle, and then 12 for high school because they're usually longer. Teams of 4 usually read those books, memorize those books, and then battle on content and in which book and sewer cut. So I write questions for it. So I love it. My kids in it. And within that meeting, they were talking about so many schools apply for grants, and it's an Oregon thing. They have it in other states, but ours is just Oregon. How many schools apply for grants for a set of books, which is usually about $150 to $200. There are rules that they follow this committee. All of them have to be available in paperback, so it's cheaper. Our library is amazing at ordering these books, and the audio versions, which are also amazing. And so they were talking about that, and I thought, I wonder if we could sponsor a Salem Kaiser team, but I wasn't sure, so I spoke to Lois, and it sounds like we wouldn't, but I still wanted to bring it just in case, maybe. So what they would be looking for next year, and Brian Dempsey's actually in charge of the grants, and he would be happy to come in and talk, but I thought I'd run it by everybody first. Just maybe if we could, if it's in our wheelhouse and the rules of what we can do and can't do, they're looking for like $500 to $800 to sponsor Salem Kaiser schools so that they can get sets of these books. And so that is my spiel. So we can talk about it, you can ask me questions, or you can just say no, and that's totally fine too. But I know we like, for the most part, the foundations and, our boards try to keep the money within the library. So I don't know if that's like buying more library books for the Battle of the Books. Since Salem Kaiser, they can all access those. I don't know if that's a loophole, but that's not.
Yeah, Mallory, how would our donation, our support the Salem Library?
That's a great question. But, and that's why I was thinking, okay, well, if it has to be within the library, or if that's what our goal is, if we're able to purchase more copies, those kids are coming in with their families, and that's more numbers, and that's more items checked out, and it's getting kids like super excited about not just books, but like how to study, and in good faith, like competing with their classmates. And there's always a state champion, and we get to watch that, and we have guest authors come from those books. Rebecca Steve is coming. She's our guest speaker for elementary, and I'm stoked. So she's going to be there, and signing books and the book bins. sell them and all the things, but if we purchase more copies, and I don't even know if that's a thing, then we're not giving it directly just to a school, but to the library, and then kids can't come by themselves, so their families would be coming in with them to pick up these books and to support their kids in reading, which is always a struggle, especially today with technology. So, that was my idea.
Yeah, do some schools provide the books or not?
Yes.
Some.
So I
schools
know
do.
I volunteer at the Myers Elementary Library every Wednesday in West, because that's where my kid goes. And she is just, with her budget, able to purchase copies of the books. I go to these bookstores or I go online and I buy as many as I can, and then I donate them to the school just because I love this program.
Yeah.
So some schools have the money for it and some schools don't. And demographic plays into that, depending, that's how their budget is set, and, you know, some just don't have money for those things. So
Right.
parents donate,
Right,
like, yeah, some schools have a lot and some
Yeah,
schools don't have any.
yeah, right. So Bridget, so right now, you make sure that there are some books that are in the battle of the books. But possibly if we gave money specifically to buy those books, would that be possible, Bridget?
How many copies do we order?
So selectors we order 7 to 10. It varies sometimes the popularity or how well known the book is.
Sure.
Of each book for elementary age. And then at the middle and high school level, we order between 3 and 5 of each. And generally speaking, that's a fairly good supply. We usually have some available on the shelf. When families come in, but there are certainly situations and seasons when folks are getting ready for Oregon Battle of the Books that the OBOB shelf is just that. It's just a shelf. Because we're waiting for those books to come,
Bob,
to come
Oregon
back.
Battle of the Books.
Yeah, so we have a discrete shelving space
Ah.
for those books, both in children's and in teens, so it's very easy for families to find them.
Right.
And they do at times get completely depleted.
So it sounds like it would benefit the library as well.
I know there are waiting times right now of 6 months or more. Because I, you know,
So a few additional copies of each title would certainly be well used.
And then after the Oregon Battle of the Books, those books could just go into circulation, whatever, right? I mean, or not.
They do, in fact, yeah, we do an assessment of those books. They are heavily used and well loved, and so some don't make it through the experience. But those that have survived intact are either moved into the regular shelves. It does mean that we have maybe a few more copies than we need for just general circulation. And so we have moved the bulk of those to our outreach collection. So then they're included when we're making bookmobile visits in the community, pop-up libraries, those kinds of things. They help augment the choices for students that we're encountering when we do outreach. So again, they would not go unused. They would continue to have an impact.
and not every book is new. So from the things that files of this is, by the way, it was written in like the 60s, and so it's back again. Yeah, the language in it is hard for kids that are like in 4th grade. And so that's a book that's been on the shelf probably since the 60s. And so it can be, it just is nominated, whatever is nominated, and then the entire staff or the committee that chooses these are all librarians, past or present.
Including me.
So, yeah,
I'm on the selection committee for middle grade.
from the mix of files, and this is Basil, depending on who you are, Eve Frank Tyler. Right.
So what-
Classic.
So
It's
our,
the classic, but when you're trying to
But-
explain to a 3rd grader, like some of the words that they use,
Yes, that's,
yeah,
expanding their horizons.
it's true. And there's a strict curriculum, and you could talk about that. There's always a Pacific Northwest author. There's always science fiction. There's always graphic novels. There's always, you know, it's like,
Absolutely.
it is vast range of books, which is getting kids to read out of their comfort zone or their favorite author, their favorite genre, because they're forced to know these 4 books.
So are you looking for money for the current one, or are you thinking more like for the?
They were thinking more of next year, because we're kind of in it now, it's kind of late in the game. Yeah, and Ryan can come and he would know a lot more because he's gonna be in the grant process for a long time. But
If we were to approve funding for 2024, when would you need that?
that's a great question. They send out copies, I think in September, does that seem right?
So we make our purchases actually as soon as the lists are released in March.
In March, okay.
Our selectors will order the requisite number of copies and they process. And our goal is to change over the shelves, the day after the state tournament in April.
Which I love
Big-
because we
because
know
our
as question
readers-
writers.
Yeah, our
We know-
readers are here even in March,
Yeah.
looking for the next
year.
next year's books. The people are very eager about it.
This is a huge, I've worked in school and had a Campbell and it's like, and these kids like read every, inch of those books. One of my questions was, the students that take part in this is what is the diversity like? Is it mostly, like white, very,
Affluent.
what, not affluent, but like the really smart kids, or, I mean, is it a mix, and are there Spanish?
Oh, yeah.
Books
So
and,
to my knowledge, Spanish and English don't always translate 100%. And as a question writer, we are literally taking as much as we can from a sentence and quoting it in our question so that you can't fight, like they couldn't argue that those words weren't in that book. So they can read them in Spanish, but they will be battled in English. But my child goes to it's in a dual language program, and her classmates who are native Spanish speakers are battling right alongside them. And some of the kids that won last year, were Indian, and like there was a vast mix of ethnicity, and I feel like it wasn't all higher class white kids.
So would you, and it sounds like based on this, maybe that y'all could come out maybe in March or April, or later, March or April,
Okay,
with a proposal. I think
Yeah.
that there's interest on the whole part.
can I invite Ryan so he knows more about it? Okay.
And there's an application too, but.
Is there-
they're
okay.
right, there is an app.
Okay.
If you're augmenting our ability to buy books at a library, the much more straightforward way would be to simply discuss how much it would cost to buy, say, 2 additional copies and direct that money straight from the library advisory board to the library.
With
Yeah,
that
yeah,
form,
that would
still
be
fill
good.
out the form.
Yeah.
Is that online?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
Sorry, that's information. Okay.
Pretty sure.
And does the library do other programming around OBOB, or is it mostly providing books? Is it OBOB? That'd be something we could also think about, is if the library wanted to, more OBOB participation physically in the library.
Yeah.
That's.
I should have said that it's not always a school that hosts their,
Right.
it can be libraries. So if they're the two homeschool kids, always do very well.
We're having
And so they go
another
to their
year.
local, right, they go to their local library, so it's a librarian thing from top to bottom through the whole city.
That's cool.
Along that line, Kelly Bartlett is on the Oregon Battle of the Books advisory board, and she was just on Lego Masters. She finished for it. She is going around to libraries and to schools, and she sold out, not sold out, but like standing room only the last 5 libraries she was at, talking about Legos and books and whatever. And so I'm just putting that out there also that I don't know what she charges, but she is here a lot, you know her. And so if you want to utilize her in any way, then people. Let her know. But anyway, yeah, thank you for hearing me out. Okay.
Thank you, Valerie, for bringing us this opportunity, and it does sound like there might be a way that it wouldn't be giving to an outside thing, it would be a library thing, so. Good luck with that. Okay, Francine.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
Library funding. So basically, as I looked at the fiscal year 23 and the proposed fiscal year 24 budgets, there was a $500,000 difference between the two, basically. It's like a little over 6 million was for fiscal year 24, and it was 525. The cut. So, and I would just reiterate what I said to the teams. We have an opportunity to at least let a couple of our legislators know on January 25th, how if sure they were aware of the library, cutback in hours, but I think as people who are on the advisory board, you know, we can hopefully, sorry about this, we can articulate it in a way that that maybe can secure some additional money from the state. I don't know if there are any resources out there for libraries that you know, that haven't been dug up, that might be for funding. I know, so that's something our legislators might give some insight to, if they know of anything in Oregon law, for example, that we could be taking advantage of that not. So those are, that's all I wanted to say. I know it's getting late.
Well, I've been talking with somebody about, that's a community member about possibly, getting a library levy pass. I mean, it's not something that would be super fast, but, it's something that could happen in other cities have done it. And, you know, I think a lot of people didn't, you know, vote for the payroll tax because it included other things and maybe wasn't the most equitable solution, but I think in general, people, I mean, we love the library, but I think people vote for a library if they know that the money is going for the library. So, you know, who knows?
And there's a lot of communities that don't have like buildings in their, like Almsville, Turner, places that do not have, and it'd be interesting to get some data, I think, for the utilization of those people of the Maine and the West Salem branches, just to actually be able to articulate to the leaders in those communities. Do you realize that these many of your constituents are utilizing the Salem Public Library? You don't have a building here, an actual town. So, and Chemeketa Cooperative Services is not giving us money for those additional areas, which is, it's the geographic area does not include that. So, you know, I guess I'm just trying to build a case for what can we tell people so that we can build the, yeah, there we go.
I think I do want to let you know that these are less just us for anybody who's not in Salem.
Okay.
So by zip code, so if it's not non-Salem zip code, it goes for.
We verify all the addresses that when people register, and if they're not in Salem, we can have a map. So if they're outside of Salem, they get a different card, and those cards we get a percentage from CCRLS for using the library.
Is that a significant part of your budget?
I mean, we do get a large amount, the largest out of the whole consortium, but it's not enough to fund operation.
Okay, so that's what,
Yeah.
there's some hope that we can.
Yeah. It's not as much as if they were charged like what a Salem citizen, pays in their tax for the library. So anyway, is there any other discussion?
What, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Lois for.
Yeah.
Years of service to the library advisory board and the library community.
And I have a question in Mark. So now I know that the vice chair takes a place of the chair if the chair is not present. If the chair position is vacant and the next scheduled elections are in September, what's the story? on that?
I'm
How's
so
that
glad you asked me. That's a perfect segue.
work?
Look it up. Bring it out.
So,
Got bylaw.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your last name, Levy. So,
interim chair Levy. The reason I'm calling him interim chair is, on the resignation of Chair Stark, he will move into the chair position. However, the bylaws for the lab, Article 3, Section 8, say vacancies in office shall be filled by vote at the next regular meeting of the board after the vacancy occurs. So what needs to happen at the next regular meeting in February, nominations, closing of nominations and elections for whomever. Mr. Levy will serve as the chair for that meeting. Until the conclusion of the elections. If Mr. Levy runs and is elected to that position, he will continue on as chair. If somebody else is, they will then move into the chair position and Mr. Levy would return to the position of vice chair until we get to where we're at in September. Is that about as clear as mud?
All right.
Okay.
So we'll have, you will have elections, in February. Anything else that we did at the board?
And just in general, just for the record, I'm gonna probably call you guys individually. To check in a little bit for.
No, Mark, just to clarify, do we have to nominate anybody now?
No, my recommendation would be to do the full process in one fell swoop. Decide if it's something you want to do. If it is, we will open nominations. The nominations will occur. You close the nominations and hold the elections all in one meeting. Alternatively, if you want, you can open the nominations now, but I would recommend leaving them open until the next meeting. But why not just keep it clean and do it all the next time?
And I want to say Lois was my inspiration to be on the board. Of day one. Thank you. Okay, that's it. We go eat, drink scotch.